Hi everyone, welcome back to C programming tutorial series. In my last video, I covered the discussion on tokens. I discussed the definition of tokens. I also discussed the categories of tokens. And in this video, I'm going to discuss one of the categories of tokens, which is identifiers. Okay, so before coming to today's topic, I just want to tell you guys that if you guys like this video, click on like button, share it with your friends, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and if you guys have any queries, then let me know in the comment section. So now let us start our discussion on the concept of identifiers. Okay, identifier is one of the important topic of C programming. So these identifiers are used to name the variables, arrays, structures, functions, etc. So whenever we will be writing down any program, we will be taking a lot of data from the user, and there has to be a way in our program where we can store that data. Okay, so in our programs we used to store the data as a variable, as an arrays, as a structure, and once we store the data using variables, arrays and structures, then we will be performing various operations on that data, and we will be creating functions to operate on that data. Now you know that we are using a lot of data in our program. We need to give proper names to the data. So that's where this concept of identifiers is come. So we can give names to our variables, we can give the names to our arrays, to structures, to functions, so that we can perform various activities or operations on the data. So the identifiers are used to give the name to variables or arrays or structures, because we used to store the data inside these variables, arrays and structures. And identifier is also giving a name to functions, because with the help of functions only we are operating on the data. The next is the identifiers are user defined words in the C language. While writing down the program, you can create your own identifier. You can give the name to an identifier according to your choice. Okay. Next point is these can consist of lowercase letters, uppercase letters, digits or underscores, but the starting letter should always be either an alphabet or an underscore. Okay. So each and every identifier can have lowercase letters or an uppercase letters, or it can have digits, or it can have underscores, but there is only one restriction, that the starting letter of each and every identifier must be either an alphabet or an underscore. You cannot start an identifier with a number or a special character. So we cannot make use of identifier in the form of keywords. Okay, so there is another concept of keyword in C programming, which we will be going to discuss in our upcoming videos. There are few set of keywords provided by the C programming language. Okay, and we cannot make use of those keywords as identifiers. So now let us see a few examples how an identifier looks like. Okay, so as you can see here I have written down an example for identifier. An identifier can be an array, as I have told you in the very first point, that identifier can be an array. Okay, so this is array int my numbers. So now here I have created a list to store various numbers, and I have given that list a name as my numbers, so that in my program, whenever I want to access the values of this list, I can refer the values of this list using the name of the array, my numbers. Okay, so now this my number is an identifier. Next is an identifier can be a function. So as you can see here, I have created a function int add student, and inside the function few statements will be there. So now this int is the return type of this function, add student is the name of the function, and inside this function I will be writing few set of statements which I want to execute when control comes to this function. Okay, so in our upcoming videos we will be going to discuss in great detail about each and every of these concepts like arrays, functions, structures, variables. Okay, and then next is structure. So structure is one of the data structure where we can store the data of different types. Here you can see I have created an array where I have stored the data of same type, whereas this structure is an advanced concept of arrays, where there is no limitation that we can store only one type of data. Here we can store multiple types of data like employee ID, employee name, and then employee age. Okay, so employee is an identifier, which is the name of the structure. Then next is variable. So as you can see, a float is the data type, and then salary is the variable. So this salary we use to store the value inside it. Okay, so these are few of the examples of identifiers. We can use these identifiers for writing down our C program. Okay, so now let us move on to the next slide to discuss various rules for setting up identifiers in your C program. Now the first rule is the identifiers must not begin with a numerical digit. As I already discussed, that each and every identifier should not start with number. Okay, you can either start an identifier with a letter or an underscore. Suppose here this is an identifier, so I cannot start an identifier with number or any digit. Okay, so if I try to do that, that means compiler will give me an error. Okay, next, the first character used in an identifier should be either an underscore or an alphabet. Okay, so that's what I have told you, that you can create an identifier either with a letter or an underscore. After that, any of the character, underscore, or digits can follow it. After the first character, you can use any of the special characters. You can use digit. Okay, let me just show you here. I can put one here. I can put one in middle or any digit in middle. Okay, but I cannot put any digit at the beginning of the identifier. Both the lowercase and uppercase letters are distinct in identifiers. Okay, so you can use both uppercase and lowercase letters in C programming. But if you have declared two variables with the same name, and one of the variable you have declared with uppercase and other variable you have declared in lowercase, then C compiler will think that both of those variables are different. Thus we can safely say that an identifier is case sensitive. We cannot use an identifier for representing the keywords. Okay, so there are few set of keywords available in C language, so we cannot use those keywords to define identifiers. An identifier does not specify blank spaces or commas. Okay, you cannot use blank spaces in between the identifiers, or you cannot put commas. I cannot put comma here, and I cannot give the blank space between the identifier, between the any character of an identifier. So if you try to do that, you will get an error. The maximum length of an identifier is 31 characters. Is very simple and easy to understand point. We must write identifiers in such a way that it is not only meaningful but also easy to read and short. Okay, so how you should write your identifiers? So while using the identifiers in your programs, you need to keep this point in your mind, that your identifier name should be meaningful. Okay, and anyone should easily understand what is that identifier, what is the purpose behind using that identifier, and the names of the identifier should be as simple and short as possible. So these are some of the rules you need to remember while writing your identifiers in C program. Okay, so in this video we discussed what is identifier, and we saw various examples of identifiers, and we also discussed various rules of writing identifiers. I hope you guys have got a better understanding on the concept of identifiers. So if you guys like this video, click on like button, share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and if you guys have any queries, then let me know in the comment section. I will see you guys in my next video, where I will be coming up with some other topic. And thanks for watching.